You wake up before the whistle inside the cold wooden barracks in southern England. For a few seconds you stare at the ceiling without moving, still half asleep. In that quiet moment, your mind drifts somewhere else. For a brief second you imagine you are back home, back in your own bed, back in your small town where mornings are ordinary and quiet. Then the wind taps softly against the window and reality returns. June 6th, 1944. You are 19 years old. And today is the day everything changes. Around you the barracks slowly come to life. Men sit up in their beds and begin checking their equipment in silence. Boots are pulled on. Straps are tightened. Rifles are lifted and inspected again and again. Normally someone would joke about the cold. Someone would complain about the early hour. But this morning no one says much. Everyone already knows. Yesterday the officers spoke differently. Their voices were shorter. Their orders clearer. No long explanations, no speeches. The waiting was over. The night before, under dim yellow light, you wrote a letter home. You tried to make it sound calm, like any other letter. But the words never came easily. In the end, you wrote only one sentence. I'll be home soon. Then the whistle finally cuts through the barracks. Boots hit the wooden floor all at once as the room suddenly fills with movement. Soldiers grab their helmets, shoulder their packs, and form up outside. The morning air is cold and damp. Trucks are already waiting nearby, engines rumbling softly in the grey dawn. You climb into the back with the others, sitting shoulder to shoulder as the convoy begins to move. The trucks roll through the quiet English countryside while the first light of morning spreads across the fields. Everything looks peaceful. Farms, roads, trees standing still in the early light. It almost feels like a normal morning. But somewhere beyond the water, an entire coastline is waiting. And within a few hours, the war will arrive there. The convoy eventually reaches the harbor. As the trucks slow down and stop near the docks, you climb down and immediately notice something that makes you pause for a second. Ships, hundreds of them. They fill the water in every direction. Transport ships, destroyers, landing craft, supply vessels. More ships than you have ever seen gathered in one place. The entire harbor feels alive with movement. Engines rumble, metal chains rattle. Officers shout orders across the docks as soldiers move in long lines toward the ships. You walk forward with your unit, boots hitting the wooden dock beneath your feet. The air smells like salt water, diesel, and cold metal. No one speaks much. Everyone is focused on the same thing, moving forward. When it is your turn, you climb the metal ramp leading into the transport ship. Your boots echo loudly against the steel steps as you descend below deck with the others. Inside, the space is tight. Rows of soldiers sit shoulder to shoulder along the metal walls, holding their rifles between their knees while they wait. Some men stare quietly at photographs from home. Others sit with their heads down, eyes closed, trying to rest. Minutes pass slowly. Then the ship finally begins to move. At first, it is almost unnoticeable, just a slow vibration beneath your feet. But soon the harbor begins to slide away behind you. You step briefly onto the deck and watch the shoreline of England slowly fade into the distance. The massive fleet begins crossing the English Channel together. Everywhere you look, there are ships cutting through the grey water in the same direction. The sea is rough. Waves crash against the hull as the ship rocks steadily back and forth. Hours pass like this. Engines humming, water crashing, soldiers waiting. Then, as dawn spreads across the sky, the horizon slowly begins to change. At first it is only a dark line in the distance. Then someone points. Through the mist and smoke you finally see it. France. The coastline grows clearer with every minute. And suddenly everything on the ship changes. Orders are shouted. Soldiers stand up quickly and begin gathering their gear. Along the side of the ship, rope nets are lowered toward the water. Below, small landing craft bounce violently against the waves. One by one, soldiers begin climbing down the ropes. When your turn comes, you grip the rope tightly and start descending as the ship rises and falls beneath you. The moment your boots land inside the small metal landing craft, you realize just how crowded it is. Nearly 30 soldiers are packed together inside the narrow vessel. The engine roars to life, and the landing craft begins racing toward the shore. Ahead of you, the coastline grows larger every second, and the sound of war begins to rise over the water. The landing craft slams hard against the waves as it races toward the beach. Inside the small metal vessel, nearly 30 soldiers stand shoulder to shoulder, packed so tightly that no one can move without bumping into the others. No one speaks. The engine roars behind you while the front ramp rattles with every impact against the water. As the shoreline gets closer, the sounds become clearer. Explosions. Machine guns. The sharp crack of rifles echoing across the water. Smoke rises above the beach in thick grey columns. Somewhere ahead of you, artillery is already hitting the sand. The soldiers around you grip their rifles tighter. Everyone is staring forward, waiting. The landing craft slows as it approaches the surf. Water splashes violently against the metal sides. The ramp in front of you shakes with every wave. You can now clearly see the beach. Steel obstacles stick out of the water like jagged teeth. Barbed wire runs along the sand, and high above the beach, enemy bunkers sit hidden along the cliffs. Then the landing craft hits the sand. For one brief second, everything feels completely still. Then the ramp drops. Machine gun fire immediately tears across the opening. The soldiers in the front row fall before they even have time to move. Instinct takes over. You jump forward into the freezing water. But the water is deeper than expected. For a moment, your boots lose the ground beneath them as the weight of your gear drags you down. Salt water fills your mouth and nose as you struggle to stay above the surface. You force yourself upward and finally feel your boots hit the sand beneath the water. Bullets snap across the surface around you. You push forward through the surf, step by step. The beach still feels far away. Every movement is slow under the weight of your pack, rifle, and ammunition. Around you, soldiers stumble, fall, and struggle to move forward through the chaos. Explosions send sand and water high into the air. Somewhere behind you, another landing craft arrives and the ramp drops into the same storm of gunfire. Finally, your boots reach the wet sand. You immediately drop to the ground as bullets rip through the air overhead. The beach is nothing like the training grounds back in England. Craters cover the sand. Steel obstacles block the shoreline. Bodies lie scattered across the ground while medics rush through the chaos trying to help the wounded. The only thing that matters now is movement. Move. Find cover. Stay alive. You press your body flat against the sand as bullets rip through the air above you. The sound is constant now. A storm of gunfire and explosions echoing across the entire beach. For a moment, you try to catch your breath. Your heart is pounding so hard you can feel it in your throat. Training takes over. Move. Find cover. You begin crawling forward through the sand, dragging your rifle beneath your chest as you search for anything that might block the gunfire coming from the cliffs. A steel obstacle sits half buried in the sand a few meters ahead. You push yourself toward it. Sand sprays into the air as bullets strike the ground around you. When you finally reach the metal barrier, you press your back against it, trying to make yourself as small as possible. From there, you can finally see the cliffs clearly. Enemy bunkers are hidden along the hillside above the beach. Machine guns fire downward from narrow openings in the concrete, sweeping across the sand again and again. Every time a group of soldiers tries to move forward, the gunfire forces them back down. But slowly, things begin to change. More soldiers reach the beach. More units gather behind obstacles, craters, and damaged equipment. Officers shout orders across the chaos. Small groups begin moving forward together, covering each other, advancing one short distance at a time. You leave the steel obstacle and begin moving again, staying low as you crawl across the sand toward the base of the cliffs. The beach behind you is still filled with smoke and noise, but the line is moving forward now. When you finally reach the base of the slope, the ground changes from sand to loose dirt and rocks. The climb is steep. Every step feels slow as you pull yourself upward using whatever you can grab. Roots, rocks, broken branches. Gunfire continues above you, but the bunkers cannot aim directly downward anymore. That gives you a chance. Soldiers climb beside you, slipping and scrambling as everyone pushes toward the top. Finally, you reach the edge of the ridge, and the battle changes again. Now the fighting is close. Rifles fire at short distances. Explosions echo through trenches carved into the hillside. Smoke drifts across the ground while soldiers move from bunker to bunker, clearing enemy positions. What began on the beach has now moved inland. The invasion is finally breaking through. Hours pass before you even realize how much time has gone by. The battle that began at dawn slowly spreads beyond the beach and into the countryside. Small pockets of fighting continue along the hedgerows and fields, but the constant roar of gunfire that filled the morning has begun to fade. The sound of explosions grows more distant. Smoke drifts slowly across the hills behind you. From the ridge, you can still see the beach far below. It looks completely different now. Landing craft continue arriving along the shoreline while more soldiers move inland across the fields. The beach that was chaos only hours ago is now crowded with vehicles, equipment, and endless lines of men pushing forward. The invasion is no longer just an assault. It has become a foothold. You sit down briefly along a hedgerow with the others from your unit. Your uniform is soaked with seawater and sand. Dirt covers your boots and hands. Your muscles ache from the climb and the fighting. For the first time all day, there is a moment of quiet. Some soldiers drink from their canteens. Others simply sit and stare at the ground, trying to process what just happened. You look down at your uniform. Only this morning it was clean. Only this morning you were still in the barracks in England wondering what the day would bring. That version of you feels very far away now. Because today you crossed the channel. You crossed the beach. And you crossed one of the most dangerous battlefields of the war. June 6th, 1944. The longest day. The moment when thousands of soldiers stepped onto the shores of Normandy and changed the course of history. And somehow, against everything that happened that morning, you survived it.